Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You know, a session like this to be followed up after Dr. Jain's talk, I think is a very hard act to follow. So, but we will do our best if we can. And thank you, Bhuvnesh. Thank you, BW, for putting us on stage. It's a very interesting and very hot topic, actually, for the hospitality industry, for the travel industry. So I'm going to just start quickly with just respect of time. The travel landscape in India, as we all have discussed since morning, actually, has changed dramatically post-COVID. A huge, huge transformation, actually. From the beaten track, the usual tourist attractions of Agra and many other destinations that all you are familiar with, now the travelers are actually looking for new destinations. They all are in explorative mode. They're wanting to go someplace new. I mean, you have your family discussions. How many of you say, you know, we don't want to go to the same place again? Lots of us, our families, when you ask of going for a holiday, somewhere they say, no, we want to go somewhere new. And those somewhere new is all within our country. And they're all reachable, so to say, from an airline connectivity point of view. And we spoke a lot about this morning, about the progress that India has made in terms of last mile connectivity, whether it's an airline connectivity, new airports, railheads, better roads, and lots and lots of new cars on the road. So I think there's a huge change that has happened for the travel tourism hospitality industry. And there is an exponential growth. I was just looking at numbers for those who may not be aware. I mean, Kashmir this year had approximately, if I remember correctly, about 1.23 odd crore tourists going there. Can you imagine the number? And this, 1.27 crore, sorry. And this was 14 lakhs as back as 2011. Is it transformation? Ladakh has tourists this year about, if I read out the number, you know, we had like 527 tourists who went to Ladakh in, say, 1974, out of which 500 were foreigners, and there were only 5 domestic travelers. And now, Ladakh had this year, ending 22 actually, 5 lakh tourists in Ladakh itself. So there is a huge growth in these. They're new for travel tourism. They were old. As far as we know, Kashmir was always very popular. Ladakh was not so popular earlier. But I think this is the whole spirit of exploration and travel that we are facing. The other thing is that in 2022-23, about 300 million Indians have actually traveled across India, 300 million Indians, out of which 100 million have actually taken weekend getaways. Just look at the enormous big numbers. And the second one that I get very excited about is the 250 new hotels, properties that were signed recently, as far as year 2022 is concerned. Out of the 250, 200 are signed in tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities. Out of the 20,000 odd rooms that have actually been signed for, these are all under management I'm talking about 17,000, sorry, are in tier 3 and tier 4 cities, also tier 2 cities. So there is a huge market growth that has happened in the last, I would say, year or thereabouts. So with these few words, I think I'm going to just open the panel. Initial thoughts. What are your thoughts on emerging markets? Ladies first. Ranju, if you want to go.
And supported by some great statistics. You know, I recall my meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister in April. And during our meeting, he mentioned something that surprised me as a hotelier as well. He said that usually Goa as a destination gets the highest number of tourists on 31st December. However, in 2022, Kashi got more tourists than Goa on 31st of December. And I, being a hotelier, and this was April, I I was so pleasantly surprised at this. So you're right. I think the emerging markets are just about everywhere in India where an experience can be sought. I think tourists, guests, clients are now looking for experiences rather than spending on other things. Earlier, the norm was that hotels would come up in places where there was infrastructure. The norm slightly shifted, not slightly, quite a bit shifted after COVID, where hotels are coming up and then the infrastructure and the ecosystem just comes around that. And I'll give you a prime example. We have a hotel, the JW Golfshire, some of you have been there. And it's on the outskirts of Bangalore on the other side. And there is a whole new infrastructure that's coming up around that side of town. So it's different destinations where experiences can be sought. It is different destinations on the outskirts of cities, tier 2, tier 3. We are now talking tier 4, Farhat, so thank you for mentioning that. These are places, wellness resorts. I think that is something that's becoming the flavor of the season and is here to stay because of the kind of experiences people want there. So I think India is now spreading its wings all over, and thanks to G20, a lot of our infrastructure within a year has elevated in the country. So now the locational modalities are now taken care of in a big manner. So I'm hoping that India continues to be on this trajectory of hotels, infrastructure, hotel. The combination works very well. And I just hope this continues to give our country the impetus that it requires. For domestic travel, more than international travel. We know international travel is pretty fickle, and with all that's happening in the world, it's time that we concentrated all our efforts on the domestic travel.
You're absolutely right. You know, COVID changed a couple of things for us. But let's not forget the primary, I think there's a lot of talk about leisure travel, right? Agra, you mentioned Ladakh, you mentioned Srinagar. The industry still survives on corporate travel, right? And now more and more on social and corporate mice, right? And when we say tier 2, at least at IHG, when we are looking at tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, we're not saying tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 as leisure. We still predominantly say leisure to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 because of the economic growth which is leading to industrialization and distribution and infrastructure, which is going to get the travelers which are going to fill your rooms on a fairly regular basis, on a day-to-day basis. The percentage of leisure travel relative to corporate travel from what it was historically has certainly grown faster. So leisure is growing faster than corporate. But let's not forget the primary drivers of the industry. Number one, the economic growth of the country, right, which is probably one of the fastest growing of the 5th largest economy, which is going to become 3rd largest, as we heard from the Honorable Minister, in about 18 months. Number two, you cannot ignore the demographics of the country. 50% of the people below the age of 25, 66% of the people below the age of 35, their motivations and actions are very different than what it was for you and me, or what we call the silver era. They do want, as we say, the experiences. They want to try new things. They are a lot more, I think we heard about dinks, we heard about the young couple who's got disposable income. So to me, I think we cannot just focus on the leisure part. We cannot focus on the weekend, 2 days out of the 7, right, or 3 days out of the 7, or the long weekends in the year, which is probably about 20 at the max, right? I think we got to look at the remaining 320 days, which is still going to rely, in my mind, primarily driven by corporate travel, which is going to be a huge growth because of the industrialization in the country.
I think, Farhat, there's two ways of looking at this, right? So again, with G20, a lot of talk is about the grand finale at Bharat Mandapam, which is a fantastic, 500,000 square feet of facility. But I think what we forget is there were 200 meetings held over the year in 60 destinations in India, right? So that is a proof that there is infrastructure in place. There is, ecosystem in place to develop from our point, hospitality or hotels into, at least 60 other cities within India. So yes, whether it's leisure demand, business demand, and the old adage, you build it and they'll come. And I think in one of the next panels, we have one of our owners, Mr. Ratankant Sharma, who built the Fairmont in Jaipur, in Kukas, when literally it was a jungle, almost 15 years ago, right? Now Kukas has become, I believe Mandeep and HBS has done a whole case study on Kukas, how with one hotel, how that whole stretch leading from the highway to Kukas is developing. A lot more luxury hotels are coming and that are already there. That how one single property kind of energized that whole strip, which everybody thought would never really work. And now when we come, I think going back to one of the stats you said, a lot of those signings that have happened last year, yes, they were in tier 3, tier 4, and importantly in the eco and mid-market. And we, as Accor, with a partnership with Interglobe, we were kind of pioneers of eco and mid-scale in India with the IMIS brand, and we have 23 hotels across the country. So I think there is demand. There is a huge shortage of hotels, whether it's economy, mid-scale, premium, or luxury. But the other thing I want to add is not only looking at domestic. Now India, with whether it's the Bharat Mandapam or the new convention center in Dwarka or Geo Center in Mumbai, has world-class facilities to really get large-scale MICE events. I mean, before you could not have a global event at that scale, and with G20 we've proven that India can really host successfully, large-scale global events. And hopefully in 2036, with, if everything goes well, the next Olympics in 2036 could be happening in India as well. So I think there's a lot of momentum. Of course, I think we all know the key economic indicators all working in favor of India. And I think it's really encouraging for our industry, the next 5, 10 or 15 years.
Thank you for getting us together, and thank you to Bhuvnesh and Anurag and the audience who is here to listen to us. Well, my take is a little different from our industry colleagues. It's different in the sense that I'm not going to address it from a business perspective or the segmentation perspective. I'll address it from a mindset perspective. Now, we need to appreciate what COVID did to us. It's a mindset change. It made us appreciate our own country, where we started traveling out. We looked at new destinations. You look at 3 things here, right? One is the diverse culture of our country, what we can see, what we can experience every 200 kilometers, or even the outskirts of the city. The second one is Atithi Devo Bhav. So that's another one where guest is treated as God, right? So wherever we go, we are guests if we are leaving our own place. So it made us realize who we are, and it took us back to our culture, which is so far, right? And we are known for that. So I'll address it from that perspective. Now, what has happened is, what has been the impact of that? With the kind of initiatives which the government has done, the new roads, the connectivity, it has opened up all these destinations, and it has made us realize what we were missing in our own country without even leaving the shores of our country. So that's the realization which has come. And that has created all these, what we so call now, the emerging markets. I would also look inwards and say, did we do the right thing by not recognizing these destinations before COVID? As hoteliers, did we realize the power of these destinations? Did we go there and see what kind of impact these destinations have? My answer personally is no. And I talk with experience. So we opened a hotel in Bharuch, a city like Bharuch. There's no other brand, right? And you look at the success of that hotel and also the profile of customers there. We opened a hotel in Vadodara. Again, the same thing. As hoteliers, did we do justice to the destinations which exist in India? Bodh Gaya, right? You look at Bodh Gaya, more than Indians, there are international clientele there. What have we done to that place as hoteliers? We just opened a hotel there. And look at the kind of clientele which goes there. As Indians, as our own country, there are so many people who go there for rituals. We never realize the impact of that. So I think from a mindset perspective, what COVID made us was to appreciate our own country, the destinations, the diverse culture, and bringing us back to Atithi Devo Bhava. So my take is that, apart from the segmentations of business, which I totally agree with, I think that's there, but I wouldn't talk about the business and segmentations. I will talk about the mindset change, what has happened.
Thank you, Sunjae. I think we largely covered about the destinations, but I'm just going to move on the niche markets. Destinations different from markets. Markets, basically, we're talking of just a spiritual market in this country. I think that has seen some crazy numbers. I mean, I have the numbers with me. I'm going to rattle them out. But there's a growth in the spiritual market is absolutely exponential. Then you talk about I think we've spoken about wellness many times since morning, the wellness space. I don't think so they are adequately served. And a lot of the industries, largely would say underserved at this point of time. Wildlife, are we reading about Assam, for example? There were 3 major wildlife parks there. I don't know what kind of hotels are available there. I've not been to Manas, I have not been to, I'm not Kaziranga also, and there's another one, the third one. Fantastic wildlife parks. Then there is all adventure tourism. Then there is also what you call culture. Then there is special interest tourism. These are all niche segments that I'm talking about. And is there a focus that we should actually, as industry, sharpen our little vision on these niche markets?
I think we are all greedy people. Hoteliers are very, very greedy people. We want all kinds of business. We want MICE, we want retail, we want corporates, we want niche, everything. So I think it would be unfair to say that we only want one piece of the business. We are here to grab anything that comes our way, as long as it's
that's the whole idea.
Top line of the hotel.
To have a presence in all these destinations of niche markets.
Absolutely. I think, like I said, when you have a presence in niche markets, either the infrastructure develops around that, or there's an infrastructure developing, like Sunjae spoke about, and then we reach there eventually. And to Sanjay's point, really India had not opened its eyes to a lot of destinations, though we knew that there was business there was potential there. And I think I would like to thank our owner partners because there's a lot of appetite now in their mind as well to take these business decisions than the safe bet of Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore. So if you see that, it's a combination, right? The appetite to take that risk and when business follows, it just kind of gives you that adrenaline rush to do something like that once again. So I think it's a very hand-in-hand kind of a story that goes along. And all of that adds to the cause.
Because I wanted to just hear, the Northeast, for example, I think they have something like 15 odd projects supported by regional governments. And out of the 15, I recollect reading about 11 of them are only on ecotourism. And these are ecotourism parks that the governments are supporting. And like in Nagaland, for sure, I don't know, there's a major hotel development of 200 odd crores in Kohima and in Dimapur, I think. Major development. This is all PPP, by the way. This is PPP. And so is I think in Assam also. So there is a major development there in these markets for, you could call it niche, you could call it new emerging market. So Northeast is a really a market that is unexplored at this point, underserved at this point of time. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Kashmir as well. I think Northeast, who would have thought Kashmir would flower the way it is right now? 4 years back, that has spurred so much of growth, infrastructure, positivity, and it continues to be dabbling with its own issues, but the growth continues. It was so heartening to hear an industry colleague speak about the amount of investments that are going into Kashmir, not just hotels, all kind of investments, right? And we've also signed some great projects there. Who would have thought Kashmir would flower the way it is? Similarly, like Northeast, it's suddenly these are destinations that are springing up, and it's only good news for all of us.
Thank
right?
you. On the niche markets, any comments, Sudeep?
So, I think Ranju said it fairly well. The four panelists here are all operators, I guess, barring probably Puneet the most and maybe a little bit of Sunjae, who've invested capital into the hotel sector. Especially Ranju and I, we are very clear, we'll follow the capital, right? We're not going to invest the capital. And listen, given where the state of the market is, because it's not our capital, we are operators or we are franchisers, we follow the capital and the owners. So I completely agree. I think where the change or the inflection point has happened is the risk, two things. One is the risk of these niche destinations has lowered, right? Because there are more and more people traveling. So the confidence on the demand and the ability to fill the hotel rooms and the ability to get the right rates and as a consequence get the profitability is a lot higher. The risk is lower and the appetite for the owners is a lot higher to take that risk. And the ability for the operators to deliver in terms of the performance at that hotel and staff that hotel is a lot higher, which is why I think you're seeing people more and more going into that structure. You cannot also ignore what the government is doing in building the infrastructure, be it in airports, railroads, roads, and so on, and the availability of facilities and distribution and skill to some extent, which is making it a lot easier for people to go into these niche markets. I think, again, if you go to the growth rates, I think if I was to forecast going forward, I think the growth rate in the niche markets and the leisure destinations is going to be much, much faster than any of the other markets, but the growth will still be driven out of tier 2, 3, 4 markets, which are going to be much safer bets because of the corporate and industrialization.
Puneet, your thoughts?
No, Farhat, just to add to what Sudeep and Ranju has said earlier, in the end, it all boils down to return on your investment, right? Hotels is a business as well. So from an investment point of view, whether it's for an owner or own capital, in the end, we look at the ROCE, the return on capital employed. And now finally, and let's face it, like in the key metros, with the cost of land and the construction costs, the returns are much better in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 markets because fortunately the rates are rising and these markets are really able to, and COVID has shown us, are able to provide higher returns than sometimes even in the metros. So that's why I think whether it's adventure tourism, spiritual tourism, or some of the safaris, they will continue to grow because there is space available, there is appetite for the owners. Of course, they are much riskier than a typical corporate hotel if you're developing in a metro, but then the returns are equally rewarding as well.
The other interesting part about going back now to serious investments in the hotel industry, I think this is the first time that we are seeing positivity and there is a appetite for investors to come forth and put some money in the hotel assets. Hotel asset class was never looked up to. I think the hotel asset class actually has come back on the investors' portfolio, private equity investors' portfolio, HNIs, and that's a very heartening thing. So if I look at the numbers, $175 million in the first half of 23 itself has been invested in the hospitality sector. And this is up 140% over last year. So it's a very heartening thing to see, a very good, so to say, trend. And this is, last year it was only 75 million in all. And now we are looking at, 38% is what you call real estate guys, as always, and 31% is our friends in the HNIs. And there is a small percentage of equities, 25% equity, private equity players. The nature or the investors have actually also changed, if I'm not mistaken. Now the guys who are a book publisher is also building a hotel. The guys who's in a pharma company is building a hotel. the guy who's actually logistics company is building a hotel. So that's the kind of faith that has come into this hospitality business. So your thoughts on this? Is it the way forward? Ranju, I'm going to give you part. No, Sunjae, show you. No, Sunjae.
So I think that, what does hospitality have or hotels have today for the owners, right? This is one business where they get the positioning for their business, and now they also get the returns, right? So it's about, you look at also the kind of investors now who are coming in. It's actually giving them the right return on the money and also placing them at a positioning level where the other business couldn't have brought them. So it's a very interesting phenomenon because you look at the kind of, I'm not going to say anything more, but you look at the investors and see how hospitality and hotels are positioning them as well, right? Then when we say that why is this happening, where is it coming from? I think what has happened is, we spoke about niche markets, right? What does a niche market do for you? Now, why is a niche market having such great results? Because the niche markets have their house in order. Any recipe for a successful business is that when you have your own house in order. By having your own house in order, what I mean is, they have the right ecosystems around them. They have the right offerings to give to the takers, whether it is leisure, whether it is corporate, whoever it may be. That's why you see the niche markets doing so well, and also having the right kind of business returns. Why is that coming? Because what has been unlocked is the power of domestic tourism. The power of domestic tourism has driven this. We never realized what the power of domestic tourism was or could be with the kind of people we have in our country, and also it's the youngest population in the world. So that's the kind of, and also the money which they have with them to spend. We never ever did things to offer them what they could experience in India. International tourism or international segmentation, I don't think it has fully come back. But yet we are crossing all the numbers. We have forgotten 2019 long time back. Now we are forgetting to 23 also. We would forget soon. Because those are the kind of results we are driving. So it's the power of domestic tourism as well, which has helped the sentiments of the investors.
Yeah, domestic tourism has played a pivotal role in this, actually. Puneet, your thoughts on this?
Sure. I think, Farhat, basically, it boils down to return. So as an asset class, hotels in India have been a laggard for the last decade or so, right? Since 2008, 2009, basically, they have, from a return point of view, they have lagged all asset classes, right? And we have investment as well with our JV partners, and we've seen the returns. They have been really, really, really low. But I think what is happening, and just to share with everybody, I mean, India still today is a $100 market, right? If you think about it, you look at the land cost, you look at the cost of capital, cost of operating a hotel takes 3 to 4 years to get a hotel greenfield project up and running. So it's a fairly capital intensive industry. Secondly, if you look at 2018 to 19, there were only 7.5% of the branded rooms that were selling above 10,000. That number today of the 165,000 hotel rooms we have is 12.5%, still only 10,000 rupees, so about $120, right? So I still believe there's a lot of room to improve, and I apologize in advance for disagreeing with the Honorable Minister who said the rates are very high for the hotels. I still think they're very, very low. If you compare to any global city, any global destination, we are still a $100 market, which is really, really low. And from a ROI point of view, it's still low. But it is encouraging still, as Sunjae said, it is a social elevator in a lot of these markets. It does, a hotel owner in a tier 2, tier 3, or tier 4 has a certain label or certain prestige associated with it, which is quite attractive. But I think eventually the returns are coming back, and as I said earlier, we are quite optimistic moving into 24 and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you. So the quick thoughts, because we're just looking at the clock.
I think it's been said, I think the relative attractiveness is this segment or this sector as an asset class relative to other real estate is increased because of the returns and because also, the office space was the most lucrative historically or residential, but post-COVID, that office space is not as lucrative as it used to be historically. So as a consequence, the hotels is raised up in rank. It is the social elevator. But there's also two other factors. Number one, in my mind, this is the one segment where preservation of capital is very high, right? So if you invested 200 crores in your hotel, the asset value of that 200 really doesn't depreciate necessarily, even though there may be more stuff which is coming along and so on. And then the second factor, which is, I think, for a lot of the business houses which are now, as you said, maybe a shirt manufacturers getting into hotels, I think this is one of the very few industries from an operating standpoint where you get the money in advance of giving the key, right? In India, a lot of the businessmen face the problems of ARs, right? Going and collecting money from your clients. In hotels, you give me the money, I give you the hotel key. Right.
Ranju, quick, your thoughts on this?
The woman's having the last word.
This one.
As expected, of course. No, Puneet, I think social elevator is a term I take back with me. I think I cannot resonate more with it. I had an owner 4 or 5 years back who once said, "Oh, Ranju, I didn't realize," it was his first hotel, and he said, "I didn't realize hotels give back so little in investment, but you know what? It's an ROE, return on ego, right? Because his social status in that city that he had built the hotel suddenly went many notches up, and he's done more hotels with us." So you are right. I think even as a company, business folks, entrepreneurs, for them, their credit rating goes up as a company, their positioning in the society goes up. That comes along with all the social trappings that they get into. So that's the first one. But you know what? It's very, very heartening to see that almost 70 to 80% of our first-time owners are now investing back in hotels. So that means their faith or their trust in this industry has not been wavered due to COVID. And we all know this industry is extremely, extremely susceptible to any socio-economic, political, geographic upheavals that happen in the world. But even today, the way it bounces back and the resilience that this industry has gives the trust or the confidence to our owner partners to continue their journey with hotels. And the more the merrier. I mean, the more investments that happen, the numbers that you gave us, it's very, very good news for all of us.
Just a last quick round. What are the challenges in the emerging market, if you had to go to the emerging market? What
Talent.
Challenges. Just 2, 3 challenges.
Talent.
I think sometimes the ecosystem is lacking. So you as a hotel, if you're the first one in,
so ecosystem.
Then you're kind of, building the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think recognition, the industry still hasn't got the industry status, and I think we deserve it. So I think recognition, apart from, of course, what Sudeep and Puneet have already said, but recognition for sure. We need a place on the table.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sunjae?
So I think I agree with my colleagues. However, I think these challenges are opportunities for us to contribute to that destination. So I think we take them as opportunities, whereas hoteliers who have not seen these destinations earlier are opportunities for us to contribute to get them.
There's the social side of the industry,
yes.
Providing job skills and so on.
Job skills, trainings, and uplifting the entire economy and the destination. I think I would not say, I think challenge is not the right word. I would say these are the opportunities for us as hoteliers and corporations to go and uplift those destinations and help them in getting them to the levels.
You can say challenges because, say simple thing like a garbage disposal. I still remember sometime in Goa, we were still struggling with that. How do we dispose of garbage? In cities, tier 2, city 3, there is no concept of that actually. It doesn't exist. I think that's a big challenge. And I think it's something that industry can actually make a difference. Go back and rally towards responsible disposal of garbage. And how do we how do we make a difference to the society?
So I think it's
Yeah.
more of awareness.
Yeah.
And if you have, if you are, in case we get together, right?
Yeah.
It's not difficult for us to get a garbage disposal system going on there.
Yeah.
It's up to us how we get together and want to get that destination to those levels.
So what
that's
I'm
why
saying
I
is the
said-
small towns don't have it
Yeah, so
currently.
that's why there's opportunities for us as
Yeah.
hoteliers of getting together.
Yeah. All right.
I look at it that way, honestly.
Thank you so much. You've been a great panelist. Thank you.